Texas baseball tries to find their stride and consistency in a high-scoring and fun-to-watch Red River shootout in Arlington. UT men's tennis continues to play well, and UT alum Scottie Scheffler gets it done here in Austin. All this and much more on College Press Box. Good evening and welcome to College Press Box. I'm your host, Ryan Swantkowski. We've got a great show for you today. Over the weekend, UT baseball had a Red River showdown in Arlington at Globe Life Park for a 3-game series against those Sooners. Coming off a tough loss to the Texas A&M Texas A&M here in Austin with a sold-out crowd, UT baseball really needed to find some momentum this past weekend. Let's send it over to Arlington to see how things went on Sunday baseball. Bottom of the first inning, OU with 2 men on get a sac bunt by utility player and number 1 Diego Muniz, who helps give the Sooners an early lead. Next, we move into the bottom of the 4th again with 2 men on, and number 11 Sebastian Orduno just gets it by the shortstop for his only hit of the day, getting the runner to score from second base, making it a 3-0 game. Now into the 6th with 2 men on for UT this time. Murphy Staley finds the gap in left field to bring home number 7 Douglas Hodo and make it a 4-1 ball game, but OU would fight back fast. Bottom of the 6th, and of course, 2 men on for OU, and number 20 Peyton Graham rips one over the left field wall for a 3-run homer, giving the Sooners some run cushion and a 6-run lead over halfway through the game. UT seemed to be basically out of it at this point, but with this team this year, you never quite know. Next inning, Dylan Campbell looking for his first home of the year and says, "Don't mind if I do." He launches a 3-run homer as UT cuts the lead to only 3 now. And right here is when you can feel the shift of momentum towards the Horns that would take advantage for the rest of the game. Here's Staley again at the plate, still in the top of the 7th, and he sends a rocket to left field with 2 guys on to tie the game up already. Left field must have had a ball magnet this game or something. Sheesh, so many balls going over there. We move to the 9th, all tied up as the one and only Ivan Melendez shoots one up the middle to bring in Douglas Hodo to take the lead and make it 8-7 Horns. Texas would go on to score 4 more and make it a 12-7 ball game going into the bottom of the 9th. OU gets 1 in the 9th, but number 45, Coy Cobb, says not today, OU, and he gets the final out to put this one away, and Texas on top, 12-8 being your final from Arlington. I'm now lucky to be joined by our baseball analyst, Tommy Yarrish. Tommy, thanks for stopping by.
Appreciate you having me, man.
Let's talk some Texas baseball now, brother. Texas baseball, it's really had its ups and downs heading into this Red River series. Where was it that the problems emerged for this team?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the biggest thing the Longhorns get out of this is a massive confidence boost that they've needed for quite some time. The start of this season hasn't been exactly what the formerly number 1 ranked team expected, losing games to South Carolina and the College of Charleston of all teams, as well as dropping a game to Texas A&M at a packed house at the Dish, which is something you never want to do against your rival. Texas began conference play on a bit of a rocky road as well, losing the opening series to Texas Tech and Lubbock. And then coming into this series, the biggest issue for the Horns was their bullpen. They let up a combined 21 runs to the Red Raiders through the first 2 games of the series. The worst showing of was in the second game of that Tech series, where Tristan Stevens let up 7 runs to the first 7 batters, failing to record a single out in that first inning. That let up 5 runs in as well. These types of performances have occurred one too many times this season, and the problems didn't necessarily fade away against the Sooners as Lucas Gordon gave up 8 hits and 4 runs in less than 4 innings to start the game. Texas came back on an outstanding rally, though. They scored 11 unanswered runs to win the last game of the series, 12-8 in one of the best baseball games that I have ever seen.
Absolutely.
But that can't happen every game. It's not going to happen every game. This team is without a doubt capable of making a College World Series run, but they need to fix the monster of an issue that is their pitching game if they want to come anywhere close to that.
Absolutely, Tommy. Pitching definitely has been their issue this season so far. Offensively, there were a lot of guys who stepped up, especially in the 3rd game. But who is the X factor to get things going for them?
Well, I think without a doubt you have to go with Murphy Staley here. He went 3 for 5 on the day with a game-tying 3-run homer in the 7th, capping off an offensive explosion with 6 runs in the 7th inning after trailing 7-1 earlier in that game. It looked like OU had this game on locks, but Staley ended off with 4 RBIs and 2 runs scored, which accounted for half of the Longhorns' points. Staley is one of the best players in college baseball right now, batting .485 on 120 at-bats. That's a mind-boggling number when you think about that. As the next closest player is Ivan Melendez. We all know how good he is. He's batting .387, which is worthy of leading most teams in college baseball, maybe even Major League Baseball with those types of numbers. While Steely didn't have as much of an impact in the first 2 games, he stepped up when it mattered most, and that was in this final game. You know, you want to win this series against your arch rival. Definitely. And that the great thing about the Texas bats is when guys like Steely aren't having a good hitting day, there are plenty of guys in the lineup who can step up and fill the shoes like Silas Ardone and Skylar Messenger. To add more good news, Austin Todd is back in the lineup for Texas, and he went 3 for 5 as well in his return with 2 RBIs and a run scored. And with Todd healthy once again for Texas, there may be a new fire lit under this team heading into the heart of the season.
I think there's a fire lit under them as well, and we're definitely going to need it, you know, getting to that tough patch of the season. So 2 tough conference opponents in Texas Tech and Oklahoma are now in the rearview behind us. So how can they keep the momentum going after a huge series victory?
Well, like I said earlier, I think the biggest aspect that will dictate how this team does the rest of the year is the bullpen. With Tanner Witt out for the season, it certainly makes things more difficult, but it's not necessarily impossible. Pete Hansen has turned into the best starting pitcher that Texas has, and he'll need to stay that way throughout the rest of the season. This team needs an ace. Hansen so far doing a good job, but if guys like Lucas Gordon continue to struggle, the good news is that the schedule gets easier from now on, as 14 of the next 18 games are at home in Austin, where the Horns are 10-2 so far this season. With slightly more inferior opponents on the schedule, and I say slightly with a lot of emphasis there. It's definitely not going to be all easy, but it should be a good place for David Pierce and his guys to find some consistency both in the batter's box and on the mound where they need it the most. The series against Oklahoma State in late April and early May, I think, is going to be a great test to see 100%. How far they have come from this point late in the season. But they've got to get through a talented TCU squad this next week as well. The road is getting slightly less bumpy, as I mentioned, for Texas, but the Longhorns still have to stay on their toes, as we know. Anything is possible in college baseball.
Of course, it always is. Well, Tommy, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Tommy. And when we return on College Press Box, we will be joined by men's tennis analyst Tate Miller to break down how UT fared against some stiff competition this weekend. We'll be right back. Welcome back to College Press Box. Over the weekend, men's tennis faced some more Big 12 competition with Baylor and even had a doubleheader against Texas Tech and UT Rio Grande Valley. And with that, we now welcome in our men's tennis analyst, Tate Miller. Thank you for joining us, Tate.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, man. UT men's tennis played against Baylor a few days ago. Would you care to give a recap on the Baylor game and how the Longhorns fared against these Bears?
Number 11 UT men's tennis suffered a major defeat to the number 4 Baylor Bears last Friday, a score of 6-0, with the Bears winning 5 singles and the doubles point to claim victory over the Longhorns. This score was certainly the most Texas has lost to Baylor in recent years. The last time Texas played Baylor, the Bears won 6-1 in a non-conference match on February 7th in Waco. The 1-point in that game by the Longhorns was a singles win from senior Richard Ciamara against Sven Law, along with taking 2 other singles matches to third set super breakers and playing a close doubles point, but those were not enough to overcome the Bears in that match. However, in the game last Friday, Ciamara was unable to attain victory in his doubles match with sophomore Cleve Harper, a match going all the way until play stopped at 5-4 Longhorns. The doubles point did not rest on this, unfortunately, as the Longhorns had already lost the 2 other doubles matches that determined the doubles point allocation. Finishing first was sophomore Micah Braswell and junior Chi Huang being down 6-3. Finishing second, Baylor secured the point against sophomore Elliot Spizzeri and Siam Woldib, who dropped their match 6-4 in 6-4. In singles, Ciamara did not find success, this time against Baylor's Finn Bass with a 6-4, 6-2 loss. The Bears won 5 of the singles games with 1 match unfinished, most notably for the Longhorns being Cleve Harper's singles match, who was forced into a third set super breaker against Wampi Mazuki, with Mazuki coming out the victor in the tie. The 6-point deficit is the highest deficit of the regular season for the Longhorns, proving just how formidable number 4 Baylor has become in recent years in men's tennis, especially after the Bears defeated previously number 1 TCU the Friday before last and entered the top 5 in ITA team rankings.
Wow, okay. Thank you for that awesome information. Wow, okay. Moving on to the 2 matches Texas played on Sunday, how well did Texas do in the doubleheader That was Texas Tech and UTRGV. And who stood out to you the most?
Well, compared to Friday, Sunday was a day of total domination for the Longhorns. UT swept both number 40 Texas Tech and UTRGV in a doubleheader of men's tennis at the Texas Tennis Center here in Austin. In the game against Tech, Texas took the doubles point and followed it with singles wins by sophomore Elliot Spizzirri, freshman Pierre-Yves Bailey, and junior Chi Huang for the clinch. They then closed with wins by sophomores Micah Braswell, Cleve Harper, and Siam Woldeeb, finishing with a score of 7-0 for the Longhorns. 5 of the 6 wins finished in straight sets, with only Woldeeb completing in a third-set superbreaker. Texas then went on to play against UTRGV for the first time after beating Tech. The Longhorns won the doubles point and followed with singles victories by sophomores Siam Woldeeb, Ishan Talluri, and Evan McDonald. The player who stood out to me the most in both games was Siam Woldeeb, who was able to break through to triumph against Tech with a 7-6, 4-6, 1-0 win. During the superbreaker third set, neither player held more than a 1-point advantage till Woldeeb broke an 8-8 tie with consecutive points to complete the sweep for Texas. He was also the first singles victor against UTRGV in a devastating 6-1, 6-1 match where he had 6-0 runs for both sets. The first set had a stretch of deuce points in 3 out of 4 games, but Woldeeb won them all to take the score from down 1-0 to up 4-1. By being victorious in 2 back-to-back matches, Woldeeb has shown himself as someone not to be messed with and a player audiences should look out for. Texas handled the doubleheader well because of players like Woldeeb.
Excellent. I've never heard of Woldeeb before, but now I know. That's awesome right there. Let's now focus on the upcoming number 3 TCU match at TCU. What are your thoughts going into this match, and who do you think is also worth keeping an eye on?
A true battle of horns going into the game at Fort Worth this Saturday. The Texas Longhorns will be with 13 wins and 8 defeats. But how well they will fare away from home court against the difficult opponent, that is the TCU Horned Frogs, is a different story. The last time the Frogs played the Horns was at the ITA Team Indoor National Championship, where TCU knocked out Texas with a 4-0 win to advance to the semifinals, eventually leading TCU to clutch their first ever national championship last February. In that game, TCU won 3 of the 6 singles matches, yet Texas was leading in 2 of the remaining matches that were left unfinished, one of them being Harper with a lead of 7-6, 4-1, and the other being Woldeeb, 1-6, 7-6, 3-2, both of which did not reach a conclusion before closing. Additionally, Braswell was even in his singles match 4-6, 6-3, 3-3 before closing, while Ciamara was close to a third set tiebreaker, falling short at 6-3, 7-6, a loss for Texas. Along with securing the doubles point, 2 other singles defeats provided the Frogs with the win. With an overall record of 19 wins and 3 defeats, it will be an uphill battle for Texas on Saturday to come out on top against the Frogs, who have shown themselves this season to be quite the opponent. However, despite the 4-0 score, the Longhorns were able to make some headway against the Frogs, headway which they will need again and more of it come this weekend. Based on past performances, my focus is on Harper, Woldeeb, Braswell, and Ciamara to give Texas the points they need over the Horned Frogs as they begin a 3-match road stretch to close the regular season by traveling to Fort Worth to face number 3 TCU on Saturday, April 9th at 3 p.m. Central.
Wow, that's really awesome stuff, Tate. I appreciate you, and thank you for joining us. And when we return, we take a look at the Dell Match play that occurred here in Austin just a week or so ago that Longhorn fans were definitely keeping an eye on. This and more when we return to College Fest Box. Welcome back into College Press Box. Last weekend, our Harrison Chiu was at Austin Country Club for the WGC Dell Championship, Dell Championship to witness Texas alum Scottie Scheffler become the top-ranked golfer in the world. Here's more from Harrison.
Last week, the Austin Country Club hosted the WGC Dell Technologies Match Play, where the top 64 players in the world played, including 2 former Longhorns, Jordan Spieth and Scottie Scheffler. Off to a slow start this year, Spieth has only had one top 10 finish this season. Coming into this event, he admitted of not playing as much while also battling swing changes. Scottie Scheffler, on the other hand, is red hot. He's won Bay Hill and the Waste Management Tournament this season. Although he was ranked highest in his group of Adam Scott, Justin Rose, and Keegan Bradley, Spieth finished 1 and 2 in group play. In his only win against Bradley on Wednesday, Spieth didn't lead the match until the 16th hole, where Keegan Bradley unfortunately went out of bounds. Spieth's game did not show any improvement on Thursday or Friday, losing both matches to Rose and Adam Scott. His inability to sink birdie putts and his inconsistency off the tee led to his demise. Although he did provide some Jordan Spieth marquee moments, Spieth did not give much to the Austin crowd. A year ago, Spieth ranked 33rd in strokes gained putting. Now, he ranks 141st. If Spieth wants to contend for majors and be the Spieth of old, he has got to get the flat stick going and be way more consistent from the tee box. Although it was a short week for Jordan, he does have the Valero Texas Open next weekend in time to prep for the Masters. Could this be the year that Spieth breaks through and wins a major once again? We now turn our attention to Scottie Scheffler, who once again found himself in contention in the finals for the Dell Match play. The only American in the group, Scheffler won Group 5 of Fitzpatrick, Fleetwood, and Ian Poulter. Beating Horschel, Power, and Dustin Johnson, Scottie Scheffler faced Kevin Kisner in the championship. The UT crowd was well in favor of Scheffler, who went up 3 holes after 6, never looking back and eventually beating Kevin Kisner on the 15th hole. Whether it be long drives, eagle chips, or hole outs from the bunker, Scheffler used his momentum through 7 rounds of the event. There's not a better golfer in the world right now. Scheffler has won 3 out of his last 5 starts, making him the #1 golfer in the world, as well as earning $2.1 million for the win in Austin. This was the scene on the 15th green as Scheffler was surrounded by his family and friends. Could you have written a better story?
Yeah, definitely a lot of emotion coming off the green today. It's been kind of a crazy past few months. I got my first win in Phoenix, and I guess this is my 3rd now, and golly, what a long week. I really don't know how to describe the emotion. I've thought about winning this tournament, and ever since last year, it left kind of a poor taste in my mouth. Getting so close and ultimately coming up short. So it feels really good to finish the job this time around. Yeah, I would say this week it's definitely got a special place in my mind and heart, and I've got a lot of good memories being here in college, and it's been a long journey to this point. I had some pretty low points in college where I really fought my swing, and I fought some injuries. I fought a lot of stuff during college, and to be out here and win this golf tournament, in front of the fans down here is really special. And like I said, I always dreamed of playing in this tournament, and just to be out here was a treat, and to be able to play 7 rounds and finish and win is really, really special.
After 7 long rounds at the WGC Dell Technologies match play, UT alum Scottie Scheffler claimed his 3rd title on the season. He is now the world's #1 golfer and the PGA's leading money earner. As for Jordan Spieth, he struggled all week. He was unable to get out of his group as he looks to build momentum before the Masters tournament. This means he must have a good performance at the Valero Texas Open.
Thank you for that, Harrison. When we return, we'll take a look at the last week in Texas sports. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back in the College Press Box. This past Sunday, Texas golf went to work at the Augusta Haskins Award Invitational presented by Valspar at Forest Hills Golf Club. Senior Pearson Cody claimed individual medalist honors with a 3-round total of 17 under par, giving him his second career collegiate victory. Overall, the team won by a total of 26 strokes, giving them their second team victory of the season. Texas Athletics has a new, more efficient and easily accessible platform to support its student athletes in their name, image, and likeness, or NIL, exposure and opportunities. The newly expanded and enhanced Longhorns branded NIL marketplace called Leverage Lineup allows for easier access to aiding and assisting in maximizing Texas student athletics and their NIL opportunities. Leverage Lineup allows fans, supporters, vendors, and potential companies access to browse hundreds of student athletes' profiles and securely pitch those that they are interested in pursuing for NIL opportunities. Playing against the LPGA's best at the Chevron Championship and after a tough opening round on Thursday, Texas women golfer Boyun Park bounced back in a big way on Friday at the Dina Shore course. She goes on to shoot a 69 or 3 under par, yet misses the Saturday Cup by just one singular stroke. Park will look to build off her strong second-round performance when she returns to action with the Longhorns at the Bresee in Argyle, Texas on April 11th through 12th. Texas softball improved to 6-0 to open Big 12 conference play for the 6th time in program history after beating and sweeping Iowa State by a score of 7-2. Iowa State jumped out to an early lead, but the number 19 team in the nation Longhorns swiftly turned the tides and was able to remain perfect in Big 12 play this season. Let's take a look at what we have going on this week in Texas sports. On Tuesday, UT baseball takes on UT-RGV at 6:30 p.m. On Wednesday, UT softball faces off against UT Arlington at 6 p.m. on the Longhorn Network. On Friday, the 8th, we have women's tennis going up against the Kansas Jayhawks at 3 p.m. on Longhorn Network. And we have another UT baseball game as the Horns take on the Horned Frogs of TCU at 6:30 on Friday here in Austin. As the weekend rolls around, we have UT rowing at Michigan, UT baseball again versus TCU at 5 o'clock on ESPNU, and UT soccer takes on the U of H Cougars at 7 p.m. On Sunday, we have women's tennis battling against the Wildcats of Kansas State at 7:30 on Longhorn Network, and we have the last game of the men's baseball series versus TCU at noon on Sunday here in Austin on ESPNU. That will wrap things up for us this week's episode of College Press Box. Make sure to tune into our other shows this week, including College Crossfire on Wednesday and Want to Know Sports on Friday. On behalf of all the crew here at TSTV, I'm Ryan Swantkowski. Thank you for joining us, and have a good night.